When it comes to EVE Online, every player wants to know the most effective tactic available. You want to know the meta. The meta controls everything. It determines what will and will not happen. Knowing the meta will alter your views, make you question your reality. It might even make you laugh. And now, you're part of it. You're watching The Meta Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Meta Show. Today is Saturday, June the 3rd, 2023. This is going to be an interesting show, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's pretty obvious based on the breaking news that happened literally 1 hour ago with the announcement from our boy Darkshines, who is here with us right now, that after almost a decade, the initiative will be leaving the Imperium. So I had Shines on the show today. I had Kazanir along from Goons. What? Talk about everything. Everybody. I know, Mark. I know, right? What? It's crazy. It's crazy.
You could have told me about this. What?
How is this? This is a thing. It happened.
Whoa!
I'm sorry you missed
it. What?
What?
You need to savor this, Mark. There are very few times when a Meta Show co-host gets to be the last to learn something. But today was one of those days.
I thought we were just going to be talking about the expansion. What the fuck?
Oh, right. That's happening still? I thought they were gonna put that off.
This is bigger news than the expansion, let me tell you.
Geez. I mean, I did think it was weird that Shines was here. And Kaz.
Why? What is it? I know why you're worried that Shines is here. It's because you can't handle anyone having as epic a beard.
That is true. That is true. I have a little bit of...
He's extremely competitive, right? That's true. Wow.
That's how he ends up being a worm. And I know there is Wormhole news today, so we can talk about that eventually. But look, we got to go.
On the pre-show, right? Yeah.
We'll talk about it on the pre-show. But listen, the top story, obviously, of the week is the initiative leaving the Imperium. So let me push our button and do our little cutscene, and then we're going to get into this and hear from Shines himself about what's going on. So, top story of the day. As noted, Darkshines, the Alliance Executor for the initiative, in a State of the Alliance at 3 o'clock Eastern Freedom Time, that is 1900 Eve time, made the big announcement that the initiative is going to be leaving the Imperium. Shines, tell us all about it. How are you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty good. I was a bit nervous today, understandably, I hope. We had our soda today at 1900 to coincide with the Goon Fireside, and we basically announced that we would be leaving the Coalition game of EVE Online, that we were leaving the Imperium. One caveat is that we will be keeping the Imperium blue. Mutual standings will be maintained for the moment, at least, to see what happens as a result of this, but also because we have made promises to B2 in the north that we would help them against Winterco and those guys, which we intend to uphold. I think it's very important in this game that you keep your word. So, yeah, it's a bit of a change in some regards. In some regards, like the immediate change, probably not much is going to be different at all. But hopefully it spices the game up a bit, and maybe other groups would be encouraged to see the light as well, especially in hostile factions.
Now, just to put this in perspective, and I'll say this from as an Init line member, the relationship between Init and Goons, Init and the rest of the Imperium has always been an interesting one. We have always had more autonomy than a lot of the other groups within the Imperium. Init has its own infrastructure, owns its own space, doesn't live in Delve, lives in Fountain. Don't tell Frank I said that. Has maintained separate mumble, separate auth, all that kind of stuff over the years, and has been largely, independent. So when I think about it, and I'm watching the reactions of some folks within both Goons and within Initiative about what the change is going to be, I think to reiterate what Shines just said, in the short term, it's not going to be that different. There's going to be a handful of small things. Now, Shines, you did mention a couple things that you think are going to be different in the short term. What did you tell folks those were?
So the two biggest changes for Initiative line members, I suppose, is more negatives. We're not going to be in the shared space agreement anymore, which really only applies to Imperium members. Fountain will be Initiative, and then Imperium space will be Imperium space. We won't be able to do PvE in that side of things. And then the other one is the access to the supermarket from the Imperium supermarket, which is is definitely a big boon to have as a group within the Imperium. So we'll lose access to both of those things. The obvious thing is that while we will be allied to Imperium, we won't be part of the agreements that were made on behalf of Imperium anymore. So, for example, Initiative is no longer part of the TTT agreement, to name one thing. So yeah, like I said, there's just because of the way things are at the moment, there's not going to be massive changes, but it is a change, and it's a change that I hope is the right thing for us to do. Obviously, I tried to be very clear about this on our own SOTA, that I don't know what the future is. I don't know what changes CCP are making. I don't know what's going to happen in nullsec. I don't know what's going to happen in EVE. I just want to try and make the game a bit more interesting, to do right by our own members, and basically enjoy the game.
Now, Kaz, can you go over some of the agreements that the Imperium has together that are obviously not going to apply to Init anymore? I mean, you know this stuff more than anybody since you were there from when most of them were created.
Yeah, I mean, so typically the Imperium has shared PvE space. No matter which alliance lives in any given portion, you can go and you can enjoy the space, so to speak, somewhere else and essentially live there if you really wanted to. Not a lot of people do that, but we do have a few, and people will distribute themselves, especially because not everyone is active in the same time zone. Quirius, for example, has Dracarys living there. They're in the Chinese time zone. It's dead during US time. I wish I could get people to live there in US time, and that's allowed by our policies. So obviously that's going to entirely change, right? With this, we're going to completely separate that, and you won't see any Imperium people up in Fountain doing PvE anymore, right? That's something that is pursuant to that compact and is not going to apply. But by contrast, we're intending to keep blue standings, and in military terms, like Shines was saying, we're committed to the fight up north to whatever extent PanFam decides to be stupid up there. We'll respond, right? We continue to want that getting north is important to both of us still. And I think we continue, Shines will probably talk more about this, but continue to see the whole game as a sort of longer war against PanFam, who threatens everyone at all the wrong times and is dangerous. I was just looking back at the logs of how we got our start. I had forgotten, even though I was playing at the time, the circumstances of Init joining what was then the CFC. And it was right around the time of the Halloween War, which was, of course, right before BTEC R5. So we were very lucky to give Initiative their first serious taste of PanFam, early PanFam blood at the time, right? And the beginning of a beautiful friendship. So I hope to see that continue, whatever the next thing is. I hope we're going to be there together, even if the day-to-day is going to somewhat change, right? And you're mostly going to be going through Fountain and not ice mining there, right?
I think the other thing that I think everybody wants to know, and the big question is going to be, what is the status of the Tranquility Trading Tower agreement? Shines, what's your take on the TTT?
So I was not involved in the TTT. That was all handled by obviously Imperium leadership. Obviously, Imperium members got a share of the TTT. They didn't hoard it like certain alliances did. Test, and it's essentially the agreement is in place with Imperium. So the reason that we couldn't withdraw from the agreement in January or February, whenever it was because it was Imperium's name on the agreement, not individual alliances. So essentially, Initiative is no longer part of the TTT agreement because we're no longer in the Imperium. We don't get income from the TTT, which is fine. I despise the TTT and everything that it stands for. CCP need to fix that shit. For now, I've got other things to worry about. The TTT is not high on my list of concerns, but yeah.
So does that mean that there is not an imminent attack on the TTT coming from Init?
No.
All right.
But if there
that's
was,
that's
I
what
would
I
say it
expect.
on stream.
But you
Right, yeah, that's true. No future plans on the stream, right?
Would be
Exactly.
very cool.
It's not without its challenges, right? Because for someone to say yes to that question, they have to have really quite a lot of stuff set up in HiSec that is not part of our typical day-to-day, right? But yeah, it's an interesting thing that political opinion, even within the Imperium, is split on, right? The thing was originally a Test and Horde project, where Test got with the guys in Horde who were having success up there and came essentially to us to pay us off because they knew that they couldn't establish that permanently without us paid off. The payoff is still working. I am curious to ask what you think the fix would be, right? What should CCP do?
I mean, the only fix that they can have is, well, one of two things. Either number one, they remove the ability to insert markets in player structures in HiSec, which I would be okay with, because there's an abundance of NPC stations to use instead. Or number two, remove, which makes more sense. Number two would be to remove keep stars, the ability to drop keep stars and sotios in HiSec. Somebody mentioned these are capital level structures. You need capitals to kill them. So why are they allowed in HiSec? The big reason that the TTT exists is because nobody wants to siege a keep star in HiSec. You need to do it with subcaps. You need to do it with positive standings characters. You need to go through the war deck mechanics. You need to have the supplies. You need to be able and willing to feed on it, because you're not able to apply damage through capitals, which would damage cap it very, very quickly, while your subcaps could fight. There's just everything is wrong. There is nothing right about having a keep star in HiSec, whether it's a market hub or not. It doesn't make sense. These things are killed by capitals. So why is it in an area of space that it's inherently illegal to have capitals in?
Often capitals fail to kill them. Right. Yeah.
Correct.
So yeah.
So Shines, can I ask you another question? Because this is being asked of me, and I can probably answer it, but I think it's probably easier for you there. I'm being asked, can you explain the benefits of leaving the Imperium but staying blue? I can probably answer that, but it probably might be better coming from you.
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
The benefits of leaving the Imperium but staying blue to Goons and the rest of the Imperium.
So, and this is no ill will towards Goons or anything like that. Goons have been the best allies we've ever had and will likely continue to be.
And the feeling is mutual, right? It's like I was saying, it's 10 years of friendship, and we've been through 2 wars against the whole rest of the game together.
Oh my God, get a room!
Sorry.
Mark can't handle it. Mark can't handle it.
What?
Oh my God.
Please continue.
These
Please
guys.
Continue.
So,
I'm sorry.
But this is a game. Okay, so keep in mind that I still want to sit down and have beers with everybody in Goons and meet those guys at FanFest and stuff like that. All right, there's no Goons over here. But if I could wake up tomorrow and all of the coalitions in the game were shattered apart, and there was just a bunch of groups fighting each other, I would be one of the happiest players in the game. All right. Now, I can't control what other groups do. I can't control what CCP do with the mechanics. I can only control what we do as an alliance. And I'm not a hypocrite. I don't like the idea of coalitions dominating the game. I like the idea of alliances fighting. I like the idea of, interregional wars. Why, for example, when Winterco attacked B2, suddenly Imperium and Palm Farm are getting involved because there's nothing else to do, right? Like obviously both sides were asked to be there, and both sides showed up, and both sides are helping. But all that ends up happening is that conflict gets focused in one specific area of space, and there is nothing else happening. And
Yeah, Shinesy.
you can change the region, you can change the tickers slightly, but essentially war after war after war is going to be the exact same thing. And it's boring as fuck, right? It's stale, it's not different, it's not exciting, it's going through the motions. And that's a problem not with Imperium, that's a problem with the game, and that's a problem with the mechanics that CCP has put in to basically force groups into coalitions. I mean, leaving the Imperium is not the logical thing to do. All right, if I want to be safe, if I want to have a sure future, if I want to maintain the status quo, then I don't change anything. But that's not me. All right, I don't.
You're an illogical person, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, fuck the logic.
I mean, I take the friendship very seriously in the sense of still seeing that there is a much bigger threat out there who continues to threaten. You know, any space they can get their hands on will come over and mulch B2 if given just a second, right? And
that's CCP, right?
Yeah, well,
is that who you're talking about?
Them too. I meant PanFam, though, right? Like I said, we got a taste of big PanFam blood together for the first time, and I hope to see that again in the future, because they are substantially more, larger than either of us, and can be a problem. But I do hope for an EVE Online with different mechanics that really, gets us to a place where smaller groups can thrive without that threat hanging over their head immediately. And that is, probably some more substantial refactoring. We'll see how it goes.
Now, Mark, from an outsider's perspective,
hang on a second.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah. Go ahead. This is important.
From an outsider's perspective, you're not in this whole thing. You're hearing this for the first time. You're hearing the details. What do you think about this?
Right. So what I hear is somebody who thinks that the game should be comprised more of smaller independent groups living in generalized isolation, where they interact with each other on a more frequent basis.
I see where this is going.
That don't share resources necessarily, that are in constant competition with each other. And Darkshines, I gotta tell you, I have a C5 that is lovely, and I think you guys could you just move right in there, and it would be like nothing ever changed.
Is it Teddy's C5?
It's not that. We're gonna get to that.
I'm sorry. Did I blow it? I blew it already. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, the son of a bitch. But no, I'm thrilled, man. I'll tell you what. I try and position myself as a CSM member and a wormholer, as a champion of the little guy. And one of the things that people, little guys. I mean, I'm sure Phantomite right now is creaming his jeans. Somewhere on that fair
he doesn't
aisle.
Watch this show. We doxed him, remember?
That's fair enough. I think that any situation where you have larger groups that are, even if they're not immediately hostile to each other, but are positioning themselves as more individualized, independent units, I think that's good for the game. I think the idea that groups don't necessarily there's I don't know if you guys know this. There's a Discord that the wormholers congregate in called Praise Bob.
Wait a minute. When did this become a thing?
It's true. I have a token of our divine ancestry here. This is our divine spirit, right? I keep that here for that reason. Anyway, there's a saying in Praise Bob, which is to say, I said it one time, or maybe not me, maybe it was somebody else, but regardless, the saying is, why does everybody got to be so nice all the time? Why can't people just be real bitches to each other? And I agree. I think that the game is better when there are more groups that are more engaged with each other and not just sitting around holding hands, giving a little old on the side, none of that business. Like, I think this is a great move. I'm excited to see.
You're getting called out in chat here. Mark, someone with purple text is alleging that you might be some sort of hypocrite and that wormholers don't always act this way.
Pre-made, staged wormhole fights where you all
Laszlo's
go, hey,
not wrong. I mean, if we all recall,
here.
Mark is the rental king of Wicked Creek now. So
only bring battle cruisers and one of you brings marauders. I don't know who this is, but he's off the mark because I don't bring marauders. I bring Zernitras is my go-to for.
And paladins, though. You bring paladins too.
I brought paladins once, and it was 2.
If one time, I mean, come on. Once is fine as well.
I hadn't had a chance to move in our doctrine yet. Give me a break. They were crab ships. Anyway,
so
I
essentially
think
Mark is Pappy.
Correct. You are everything you hate.
Oh man, I'm being
Mark.
ruined.
What tell me about
everything you
though?
hate.
So your initiative is no longer bound by the Imperium's anti-renting policy either, right?
That's true.
What is about to happen here? Is it about to be initiative is suddenly the rental lords of all of? I haven't looked at the Southeastern Agreement, and is it the Imperium's name on it, or is it Shines' name on it?
I think it was each individual alliance, right?
The Southeastern Agreement is Imperium. So Asher has signed it on behalf of Imperium, and because we were the ones who were pushing for it originally, I've signed it on behalf of Initiative.
Oh dear. Okay, so you're still.
So that stays. Okay. So the Southeast Agreement stays in effect then.
The Southeast, the Southern Agreement doesn't change from our point of view.
All right.
And in terms
that
of
is rental, a good question. Yeah, about renting.
In terms of rental, when we announced at the end of the last war that renting would not be a thing anymore, that Fountain, the space that we took for ourselves was going to be for ourselves. The response from members was overwhelmingly supportive. So we've no intention to look at renting anymore.
Oh yeah,
very good.
Lovely.
What I would say, however, is that renting is extremely lucrative, and it leads to a massive space grab by the bigger groups. So if CCB really want to embrace a fresher and more interesting nullsec, that means more groups in space. That means less space for the bigger groups, and that means you need to find a way to not stop renting, but make it painful, really, really painful.
I don't know if I would take that tack, but more think of it as what is renting doing as a game mechanic, and we've had a lot of conversations actually with them behind the scenes trying to work through these sort of topics, because I don't want to be in a position where I would ever have to say to them, you need to nerf this mechanic and it's a certain play style, but rather, how does renting work? What does it do? How does it fit into the architecture and value of space? And should you actually need renters to achieve that? No, you shouldn't. There should be other mechanics that let you do that with your space and have other opportunities for people to do things. So those are very valuable topics. But yeah, it is a very powerful mechanic. At the same time, what you get from the membership in terms of loyalty and respect for not doing it, like you said, the reaction is enormously positive, right? So very interesting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is and this is something CCP, and I said it earlier, they need to address, is that any group that is trying to make something of themselves in EVE, I mean, we're established, we have an experienced leadership team, Goons have a massive member base, so their income is okay. All the established alliances in the game do okay. But any new group that's coming up or trying to become somebody in EVE, and CCP done a massive push on new members, and that's super important because you need new blood and everything. And nullsec is not different. You need new blood in nullsec in all areas of space, but it's just not a possibility because the income streams are not there. The majority of income streams generated by players are handled by outside mechanics, and the corporation stuff that they've mentioned sounds cool, but that does fuck all for alliances and groups that are trying to be more than just a corp in high sec or low sec, right? So the corporations, again, it's a positive change. What they've said is on the way, whatever that is. I don't have the details, but they've said it is on the way. But again, it feels like it's they've kind of missed the important point again, is that if you want more content, more fights and shit happening, it needs to be on an alliance level, not just a corp level.
All right. Okay, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege here because a lot of people have been asking me in the last half an hour or hour and a half of what's happening with the Meta Show, what's happening with me, what's happening with all of this kind of stuff. So let me get on my soapbox, although I'm not going to put the soapbox graphic up because I haven't fixed it yet. Shines and I have been talking for a while, and I've talked to Waking Tea, and I've talked to Merkel Chen, and I've talked to Asher, and I've talked to a number of people. And this is the Meta Show on the Imperium News Network. I am, in addition to being the host of the Meta Show, I am also the breaking news anchor lead for INN, for the Imperium News Network. I am one of the faces of the Imperium News Network. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to have somebody hosting the Meta Show who is not in the Imperium, since Init has left the Imperium. Now, I am a line member. I am not important. I have never been important. I have never striven to be anything more than a line member in the game EVE Online. I've been a CSM member. My term is up in 4 months because they extended us, because I'm pretty sure CCP wants to fuck with me personally again. And I've been doing that for 4 years. It's been a long time, and I'm looking forward to transitioning out, like my friends Merk and Nam, who are former members who also have served as long as I have. It's been a long time. I am in the top 10 all-time CSM length serving people. That was not the most eloquent way of saying that, but
but you did try, so.
It is. So when I'm done with the CSM, all I have left is this show. And if I'm not in the Imperium anymore, I won't have this show, obviously. So I talked to Merk, I talked to a lot of different people, and I have had a standing offer to join Karma Fleet for the last 5 years. But I haven't done it. And I haven't done it for the exact same reason that Shines was talking about with some of the other folks in these big coalitions. It was cushy. It was easy. It was what I knew. It was, I've been with STK in my group for years. I have been hanging out with Init for years. I know everybody. They know me. I like all of them. They like me. It's fun to hang out. There was nothing hard about it. There was nothing interesting. There was nothing new. And that gets kind of stagnant, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it was true for the Imperium with Init, and now Init is leaving for greener pastures, but not the least of which to try something different because nobody else does this kind of stuff. People don't leave these big groups. And these big groups, at least alliance-wise, don't leave these big coalitions. If we ever did a show where Horde left PanFam or PL or NC Dot left PanFam, it would be huge news. It would be crazy. So the idea that Init leaving the Imperium is not a big deal, it is a big deal, and it's a big deal for a lot of people. And one of those people is me. And so after about a solid, at least a week, and for much of my vacation last week, which is why I was not here, I was in Amsterdam having fun, but also struggling with the what do I do? I've made the decision that after the show, and once we get rolling around to do this, that I will be leaving the initiative and joining Karma Fleet.
Oh.
This is a big decision. It is very difficult for me to make, but I think it's the right one, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter of my EVE career. And maybe it means I'll be in leadership. Maybe it means I'll have space work to do. Maybe it means absolutely nothing and everything will go on the same way that it was before. But for the same reasons that Shines wants to take Init out of the Imperium and go do his own thing, I feel like it's time for me to do the same thing. So I wanted you all to hear it first. I've done my best to keep the lid on it as much as possible. I know it might have gotten leaked elsewhere. That was not my intention. I wanted you all to hear it from me before anything else, but I figured this was the time now to say it since everybody was asking. So the Meta Show will still be led by someone in the Imperium. It'll be okay. Shines, I love you. I'm not, this is the hardest thing I've done in this game in a long time.
You.
Pretty rough to make him sit here for that. Honestly, that was tough.
There you go.
Man, I almost choked up there. Please, as the secret creator of Karma Fleet, let me welcome you to Goon Swarm Federation, Brisc Rubal. So we're happy to have you, and equally happy to still continue to be friends with your former alliance. Right. So let's all continue that.
Right. And I will make a statement to the guys in Discord before I leave, and then we'll work it out. But tonight will be my first Saturday Night Swarm officially as just a Karma Fleet member, which will be interesting. In terms of Fountain Frank, I haven't talked to Frank. I don't even know if he knows what's going on. He wasn't at the soda. Yeah. So I'll have to find out from him what's going to happen, what he's going to do. But he's still the Imperium spokesman, as far as I'm aware.
I have a suspicion about where Frank might end up, but we'll leave it for another show. No future plans.
Okay.
That's fine. I have a thought. I know how this game works. I know where Frank lives. So we'll see.
There you go. That works for me. All right. So that's done. We're done with this shit. Do you guys want to talk about other things that happened this week? Because we have some news besides, the fact that Initiative's leaving the Imperium, right? So let's do it. We're going to go to...
Everything else in the universe fell out of my head.
Everything just stopped
this week. Yeah.
It all just stopped. All right, so we're going to go to Pearson to Corporate Veil. We're going to talk a little bit about the expansion because we have some more news about what's going to be in it. And I want to hear from Shines and Kaz what they think because this is it's an expansion.
Yes, it is.
It is an expansion.
It is.
All right. So the first, all right. Let me be brief before we get to the expansion. Let me just throw this out there. CCP announced that they put out a new FanFest documentary. It's out now. I am not in it. Mark is not in it, so they can promote their shit themselves.
Yeah.
Next up, player-made billboards are coming back.
This is good news.
This is good news. This is exciting. Yeah. And I hope that everybody will take advantage of these because it's like we've been waiting for them to let us put these billboards back in forever. So it's not just that, do you have clear vision? He does or he doesn't, depending on which day of the week it is.
What's a fish?
I get a real kick out of being docked in the station and seeing my face just real fast come up in the list of CSM people because it rotates through that every
like 10 seconds.
Yes,
it's ridiculous.
There's nothing else.
It's ridiculous.
Nothing else. It's so bad.
It's ridiculous.
Quaif.
Now, Upwell structure personalization. This has become, I think, the big news. Obviously, we have been asking for a long time from CCP for structure skins. And let me be clear, this was not an easy thing for them to implement. It was not an easy thing for them to do. It was not an easy thing for them to put together. Now, are we happy about all of this? No. Is it the greatest implementation they could have done? Probably not. But let me walk you through what they're doing. So essentially, all of the different, and I won't play this because you're not going to be able to hear it, but I mean, you can see they run through, they talk a little bit about the different things. You're going to be able to pick different colors. You're going to have 3 different color channels that you can go in and change on each of these structures. And you can do lots of cool things. And then they also talked about, how they're going to run this. So you're going to purchase these using Corp Evermarks. All right. And here is on the screen. Now, people were freaking out about the costs. I don't know if any of the costs are correct. Yeah. But the whole concept, you're basically the longest you're going to be able to purchase one of these for each individual structure is 6 months.
Yeah.
180 days.
Right.
Yeah. People need to, I've seen people panicking about this before. I think they just need to look at like a fuel cost. Like Evermarks are a fuel that you can now put into your structures and make them turn a color. I mean, people are going to complain about the fact that it's not a one-time cost, but you got to imagine a group like Karma Fleet, right? Where, you have so many members who can contribute Evermarks all at the same time. I have no idea what the Karma Fleet Evermarks wallet looks like. I know what mine looks like, and we're
40 million Evermarks is what we have in our
that's insane. That's truly so many. So if there was no way to use these, eventually you would get to a point where you've now skinned all your structures however you want them. You've put all the the goon coloration, the goon regalia, over the top of them, and then you have no reason to ever spin these things again. So
Yeah.
the fact that it's a monthly thing is not that big of a deal, I don't think.
And I think that the other big question, damn it, I lost them. Well, let me find this thing. There it is. No, that's not it. Anyway, the big question was always going to be, so how are they going to implement structure skins? What are we going to be able to do with them? And how are we going to buy them? And now I've heard a lot of complaints. There were a lot of complaints on Push to Talk, if you guys watched that earlier, about the Evermarks being some part of some failed NFT scheme of Hilmar's. I'm not aware of that being the case. The Evermark thing has always been a CCP Rattati philosophy, and his whole philosophy, and he's explained this publicly, so I'm not breaking NDA here. His whole thing was he wanted an in-game currency that couldn't be traded, that was designed specifically to provide substantial rewards that people wanted for things they did in the game.
Yeah.
Okay. That was what he wanted. That was the goal. And I see people saying ARM and going back to ARM and stuff. Well, you could buy ARM.
No.
So it wasn't, it's not, you can't purchase Evermarks at all. The only way you can do it is by running these dumb Paragon missions in HiSec. Now, yes, if you want to make the argument that you can buy it, you can buy the stuff because you're buying, a ship off the market, or you're making a ship, or you're buying the minerals, or whatever you're doing to buy the ship to complete the pay to get the Evermarks. That is, you're arguing you're buying it there, but you're not spending actual money directly in the game. And I think that was important to him, and that's why he designed this. And the whole concept of Evermarks, it was supposed to start with these Paragon missions, but it's going to expand so that there are going to be a lot of things you're going to be able to do in the game to earn these. But what you do with them is going to be, it's all going to be for customization. It's going to be things like, obviously, like, the already implemented corporation skins and alliance skins, and now the structure skins, and then maybe there'll be stuff in the future. But I will say this, if you look at like the way that they did these art assets and they created a whole new graphical interface to do this and everything like that, there's nothing that could stop them from expanding that to other things.
Well, and you shouldn't look at something like that and assume it's done, right? Like, just like when we saw the first personalization thing on the back end of the ship fitting interface, like, it is fair to say that is a work in progress. I think anybody who looks at that doesn't see a finalized product. And the same thing applies to this Skinner tool, right? Like, this is, and the Evermark economy as it is too, I think people are putting a lot of stock in just kind of what they've seen in the video and what they've seen out of Evermark so far. I do not believe this is a finalized product. I think that this is probably still something they're going to continue to work on, continue to try and iterate on until it is, like he has said before, and like you just said, a reward for playing the game and not just a reward for logging in or a reward for swiping a credit card.
Yeah,
now,
if they take the opportunity and make this into something where you get daily quest rewards or whatever Eve's equivalent is, and various things can generate these, and you have a pool to draw from, then it becomes much more dynamic, where the initial implementation has just sat since Uprising and had pretty low engagement, right? That is the bottom line. A lot of it's annoying and difficult to do. You only get to do one thing a day. It doesn't provide that much. So people are feeling a little, sticker shocked by the numbers they have seen. But they have an opportunity to just hugely expand the funnel here.
Yeah.
Right. And I think whether those numbers are accurate or not, and we don't know, because that's not the final implementation, obviously. But in addition, they've also said over and over again that they're going to provide ways for us to get more Evermarks than just going to these high-stake stations and running these dumb missions, which drives me crazy, because
they're so bad.
I hate being forced to go to HiSec every day
they're so bad.
to run a damn one mission, and it's every night, 22 hours. And I bitched about it loud and long at the CSM Summit in February. I'm like, guys, you got to give us more Evermarks, more ways to create Evermarks, and more things to use them on, because frankly, at some point, people are going to want to use these. Shines, how many do you guys intend to do anything with the structure stuff? Do you even care about this? Is this something that Alliance leadership thinks is, hey, this looks fun? Or is this something that's just going to turn into more work for you guys?
If it is accessible and easy to do, then yeah, absolutely, it's cool. And obviously the art team is one team that delivers time after time. However, the current iteration of how you generate Evermarks means that it's not going to be a thing.
Right.
Ideally, what would happen is the Paragon station would have never come about, and instead a Paragon agent would just be available in, every Keepstar or every NPC station,
Or let us rent them. Let us rent them for
make
our
a
members,
service
right?
module, have
Correct.
them hang out in
Exactly.
space, right? Something, right?
You need to make it like CCP have a habit of trying to make things difficult in the name of interesting mechanics, and sometimes it works, and other times it's super dumb. And I love the idea of customization and personalization. Again, the art team in CCP is that one department that you can never complain about because they just deliver time after time. But I think I went to Jitta twice and done the Paragon stuff on Shines. And then I just stopped because it was so fucking it's so fucking tedious to do. Like
Yep.
I don't sit in high sec, I can't.
They're bad.
I can't just jump clone up there because I need my jump clones for other things. Like it's super dumb. It's not accessible.
Yep.
I bought a monitor icon with the Paragon marks, which I think is super cool. Again, I think the idea is super cool. But I got those ever marks from
the
login campaigns,
from
right?
the dailies, correct?
Yeah, exactly
exactly.
right. No, that's why I have the one correct ship now on certain pilots will have a fatty on it, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I got on most of, especially because I have so many alts, right? Which is so common among like power players that they're going to be using a random pilot that they barely log in on a regular basis. Those guys will have one or two icons and that's it, right? So it's frustrating. I hope they change all this.
But especially like you're not going to get like you have to do this in a holding corporation, right? Like what you said. So 1DQ is held by a holding corporation. B170. If we want to update B170, it's in a holding corporation. So do I ask people to put a bunch of alts into the holding corp, but don't give them roles and then tell them to go and sell fucking rifters to CCP and Jitta? I mean, it's just super dumb.
And this is what frustrated me more than anything. And let me get into this because this is a big deal. We told them from the beginning, this is how every major organization, whether it's Wormhole Space, whether it's LowSec, whether it's Null, every major group has all of their infrastructure, all of their assets in a holding corporation so that it can't get stolen by somebody, because that's the whole point of playing EVE, is to steal shit like that. Part of the point. So we told them there has to be a way for corporations to pass Evermarks through to the holding corp.
Yeah.
Otherwise, none of these are ever going to get used, except for like maybe in a small 10-person Wormhole group or some small high sec corp or whatever. You're never going to see them in null sec because nobody's ever going to be able to do that. And we were promised, and they've made it clear, and Swift has said that they intend that will be a mechanic. It will not launch with the update when the update goes through sometime this month, but it will launch shortly thereafter. Now, Horrendous, I know what you're going to say, and I agree with you 100%. This company's track record on iteration is not great, but when they say something like that as categorically as I have seen it said publicly, that tells me that they are going to do it, so I'm going to take them at face value that this issue will be solved. But I'll tell you, if it's not, I'll be the first one out there screaming with a pitchfork, because I told them 6 months ago that this was going to be a problem, and they needed to make it happen.
That's a major frustration with CCP, at least that I have, is that they can do so many cool things, and they come up with super cool ideas, and there's stuff that players should be hyped about. And this is similar feedback I've given on the T2 Dreads. Like, all of this stuff sounds super cool. Customizable skins for Keepstars, super cool. Customized jump gates, super cool. T2 Dreads, super cool. Skins aren't accessible, and the way industry and resources are in EVE at the minute, we don't know our Dread's going to be accessible. So what the fuck is there to be hyped about until they address some basic mechanics instead of...
There's a lot riding on the quality of the delivery, as a matter of fact, with this expansion. I really like many of the things they've put together. It has seemed, since we saw a glimpse at it the first time, seemed like a potentially cohesive whole that I like the pieces of. But you're absolutely right that many of those pieces, to succeed, have other things or dependencies that either we know won't be in at launch, or that are sort of unclear, or we're not sure about yet. So I still am sort of optimistic, or I want to be, right? I don't want to be out there being negative about the X-Pack just yet, but you're right that there is a lot of unknowns or known unknowns, right? Potential stuff that can go wrong here. Mm-hmm.
Correct. Mark, what do you think about the Lancer Dreads, the T2 Dreads?
I think Panda Ralica is probably very pleased with himself right now. I think the T2 Dreads are interesting. And I've said that kind of off and on over the last couple of months because all the little worm babies have been asking me about the T2 Dreads and what I was able to say about the T2 Dreads and what I thought about the T2 Dreads. And fact of the matter is, like, I have no clue how these things are going to be implemented. I don't know if they're actually going to get implemented at all. I can say that for Wormhole space, their primary function, which is their big debilitator ray, the lance that causes your ship to not be able to do a handful of things, is not as useful as it might be elsewhere. We were talking the other day about what maybe if it also would cause you to just give your ship like polarization, that might be interesting. But for us, I mean, I don't know. I don't really see it doesn't do much for me. But for groups like Snuffed Out, for groups like any of the blocks, maybe as a defensive measure to keep fleets from retreating or keep things tackled. It's interesting, but like I think it's way too early to say how these things are going to fit into the meta. I think they're neat. I like the artwork for them. I mean, the animation is cool for the lance, but this is what I think is interesting about this, without going into details about it, is these T2 caps have maybe been the most contentious thing we've had to talk about all year within the CSM internally. I don't know if there are 10 people in the CSM, there are probably 10 different opinions about these T2 caps, which if nothing else means that CCP has found themselves upon some kind of meta breaking point, and we'll be interested to see how it goes one way or the other.
And I have to say, I hate the fact that this whole debate over these has kind of landed me in the lap of some of the CCPers who have been arguing that despite all of the claims from the community that are concerned about these T2 Dreads, that they really want to just put them in and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And I kind of agree with that to a certain extent. Like, as much as, and again, Arendis is going to kick me in the balls for saying this, they can iterate on them later. They can get good data and see what's happening. And if they are as meta changing as people expect them to be, then they can tone them down. But in the meantime, I just kind of want to see what happens. And one of the biggest issue that we hear from folks that are very concerned about the way that these new lances are going to work is that this could really impact jump freighter logistics. Kaz, that's your big concern.
Yeah,
you've been vocal about it. Tell us what you think is the issue.
It certainly seems paradigm shifting in a way that no one knows exactly what would play out, right? Because there are many different layers to the decision making, right? It's true that currently a lot of export logistics from nullsec and lowsec flows through lowsec to highsec gates as a jump freighter load, right? That's the way that they get used, and they're relatively safe when used that way, and relatively safe in general. You don't see a lot of jump freighter kills out on the kill board. But that's because people only use them in the ways that they are safe. If you use a jump freighter some other spot where it's not safe, it quickly dies. It's very famous. It was originally named Ninking. It takes exactly or less than one Dreadnought to kill a jump freighter successfully, right? It's easy. They're tuned around being high-sec freighters, right? That's what their hit points and mechanics are all balanced around. So all of a sudden, it seems like previously the safe point where they did get used is very much no longer safe in a way that the mechanics don't support counterplay without just dropping a citadel right on the gate and watching it all the time, right? But between the ability to have the dread cloaked or have log off traps and get the timing down, people are very concerned. But so then what happens? If that were to go live, do people continue to try and do it and increase their rates? Do they shift where their logistics is happening and try to hide it and move a lot more stuff through a very difficult high-sec terrain right after the Pakvin changes? I don't necessarily know the answers to that, right? There are many options that all of people are discussing right during this period of uncertainty, which is interesting. I don't know how to predict how that might go down, but the numbers are such that I would sort of prognosticate a big economic recession of some kind if it is as serious as all the jump freighter pilots are saying, right? And it certainly seems like it because, well, there's not much of a counter, right? If they get the drop on you, it's over, right? So that is a systemic sort of risk just because of the amount of the economy that is supported by jump freighters as a very expensive, very safe, very slow sort of tax on logistics.
But
and I think that's. Go ahead, Shine. Sorry.
Like even that, I just see someone saying in chat, and they're not wrong. Like jump freighter stuff is too safe. Stop forcing us to fucking jump freighter. Like we don't want to go to high sec to do stuff. We want to do all this shit locally. Stop forcing groups to go to high sec. But Kaz is right. Like what I said, somebody asked me, I can't remember who it was. What do you think of these dreads? And the answer I gave was, I will be more surprised to see jump freighters get into high sec than I will be to see jump freighters on the kill board, because you can be guaranteed Snuff and other groups like them are going to sit on those high sec gates and are going to lance every time a fucking jump freighter comes along. And to anyone thinking, oh, just counter drop them, go for it. You counter drop Snuff when they're formed.
Have fun with that.
It's not realistic. So
right, yeah.
If this change comes out in its current the way it is, jump freighters are completely rip, and Snuff is just going to be farming kills all day. I might join Snuff actually if that comes. But you know what I mean. It's
and I've tried to make clear to them. They look at public opinion and they see a divide in public opinion. And we've tried to make clear to them, and that in this particular case, the divide is coming from people who want really very easy kills, in a sense, right? They're just cheering the possibility of some dismay. So, but I'm not sure what the universe would look like if that went down that way. We'll have to see. I think what is often misunderstood is, jump freighters are pretty safe, and I would support changes that, in keeping with their existing play style, where they have to pay attention, they have to check for certain things and make sure that all of their pieces are in order, right? There could be changes that affect that play style, but this is not in line with those changes at all, right? Right now, if you have to play that way, if you have to play around a dread drop and you're moving things, you're not using a jump freighter. You're using something else that's better at moving stuff if you have to put yourself in that situation. A Titan with some real freighters, maybe a super carrier, it depends what the thing is, right? But that's what you would be using in those situations. You just don't have to deal with that because jump freighters can't deal with it, right? If I have to take something out that needs big cargo and can have fit capital tank, I'll take a Rorqual, right? It's just not the same situation. So I do think they seriously screwed up almost by accident. Of course, they just want the Lance to work. They just want it to have a unified game design, and they don't want to have to make a stupid exemption for the low set gate. But you know what? The Hick points already have exactly that exemption for exactly this reason. They'll tackle a combat capital on the low set gate, but will they do it to a jump freighter or a subcap? No, right? So we'll see what they decide.
Right.
Just to clarify one thing then as well. Sorry, I know we're running late, but some of these two things. One, why are we using high sec to import stuff? Just stop. To build anything in the game, even T1 ammo, anything that requires titanium, which is everything, you have to import from high sec. Kaz will be able to explain all this much better than I can.
And the way to think of jump freighters is as the release valve. Anything that can't be done locally, can't be transported some more efficient way, people will pay for the safety and length of a jump freighter, right? They pick up all of the leeway in the economy. And now we're talking about trying to just choke that off, and it's going to be a problem.
Yeah. And the other thing is the lances. It's not that a lance can kill a jump freighter with just a lance damage. No. It's that it stops it jumping the gate. So
that's the thing. That's the big deal. That's going to be an issue.
Everybody's concerned about. Disagree with the mechanic. It's going to kill jump freighter logistics. That's all.
I think as the CSM has talked, correct me if I'm wrong, but we would all support the lances just with damage. If someone is going to get a couple lancers together and skill shot a jump freighter out of mid warp such that it dies before landing, I think that belongs in EVE Online. Actually, that could be okay. But the fact that just one tick and you can't take the gate anymore, and it just that's a paradigm shift we don't need.
So. I don't even know necessarily if it's just the fact that because the problem is the one tick can apply to you in warp. right?
Right,
If you get hit by the damage at all, you get hit by the effect. So you can the fact that you can be hit by effectively a scram, a Hick scram while you are in warp is kind of broken.
I don't mind it for nullsec. I think it's kind of cool. It'll open up a lot of avenues in nullsec.
Right.
I just think in low sec, specifically around the gates is broken. I think it would be cool in low sec in general, again for fighting, but just for ganking jump freighters, it's too OP. It's too much.
It is.
Right.
It is.
We're nearing the end of the show, but I know Mark has stuff he wants to talk about, so we're not going to leave without letting Mark have his say for Wormhole time.
It's finally Wormhole time.
Wormhole time.
I've waited so long.
All right.
Tell us
Do you
about
want to talk about Teddy, or you want to talk about the fight? You tell me which one you want to do first.
We'll do the Teddy thing last. I want to talk about the fight first.
So, so here we go. Wait a second. We have a new graphic. We have a new graphic for Marky Mark when we talk about Wormhole or fights. So here it is.
Mark's epic Wormhole battles of the century of the week.
So fucking stupid.
There it is. There it is.
Incredible.
Here it is.
Incredible. Yes.
Yeah.
This was the big story of the week. Local nullsec group masquerading as wormholers. Paper Numbers was nearly evicted by a local high-sec group masquerading as wormholers, Parabellum, and their band of merry men. And what you see here is the end result of that, which is Parabellum fed very badly. And this is with Paper Numbers making the bold and incorrect decision to fight on the hold timer. You should not do that. Groups will absolutely form as hard as possible for the hold timer, knowing that there is a confirmed kill at the end of it, and they don't just have to wait for another timer. You should always try and take it on the armor timer if you can. I don't know if it's different in nullsec, but it's definitely the way it's done out in my part of space. But the plus side of that was that they did give them enough time to infill a lot of friendlies. My good friends in Wolves Among Strangers, the Lupus Alliance, Outfit 418 and Blue Loot Not Included were there. Laserhawks were there. Even my group had a couple guys there, even though those timers were absolutely tragic for us. And yeah, as you can see here, pretty clear loss for Parabellum. And if you scroll down just a little bit here, Brisky, what you're going to see is a lot of dead paladins.
That's a lot of dead paladins.
Oh, yeah, a lot of dead paladins.
That's got to warm the cockles of your heart, Marky Mark.
A lot of dead paladins. Oh, so good. So, listen, I'm just telling you, there aren't a whole lot of things that really get me going anymore, but all those dead paladins, that's the good stuff. Anyway, so yes,
31 of the 32 paladins involved died
so badly. It was
ate shit,
magnificent.
And then 23 on the other side, which is also good. So hey,
yeah, also listen, any paladins that die are good for me. The Zernitra lived, which is great. Everybody knows I'm a Zernitra fetishist. So I'd love to see that sticking around. And yeah, Paper Numbers continue to live. Their C2 does not get evicted. They did lose a couple structures, I think, earlier in the week. But the final timer was great. They survived. Everybody seemed to have a good time. There's a video up. If you go looking for it, the story of, and then whatever the name of this fucking hole is, J122638. I think somebody put together a video of some of the fights if you're interested in that sort of thing. But yeah, no, love to see this one. Parabellum, notorious for trying to evict groups in low class holes because they can blob with 1,000 paladins and they infill all of their friends from all across the Russo sphere. So seeing this one kind of get rebuffed feels very, very good, and I like it a lot. And it's so good. So that's that stuff.
All right. So now we have another story of a scrappy little group. That was a joke.
Little group, a
tiny little
group. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one.
Going from low class to high class. They're moving on up.
Double wormhole time. Okay.
Double wormhole time. I know. I get two
wormhole stories in one show.
Stories this week. It's incredible.
Tiny.
The second one. I wanted to give a good shout out to. Listen, people say C5 space is empty, and it is. But today it's a little less empty because what we have for you today is the notice and public announcement that the group Outfox, led by my good friends Teddy GBYC and Ashley Trainer of Ashley's blog fame.
And when we say
leaving.
tiny, that was a joke. They are not
they're
tiny.
They're real big. They're a pretty big group, pretty major. One of the last big C4 groups actually in Wormhole space. Although there are new ones every day, but they have been maybe the biggest group in C4 space for a while, ever since Singularity Syndicate moved out or Wholesale moved out. One of those two. Either way, they are moving. They are
moving on up.
They have announced today. They are leaving low class space
to a C5.
If you go to one of those, that other picture, the big blue picture that I sent you, they have right here. You can see they've now destroyed all of their suitcases. All of their freighters are now dead. They have popped their home defense capitals. Their
as a result, their men were malmotivated.
That's true. And so now they have no way back. The deed is done. And I bring this to you, goons and friends of goons, to tell you that things are not nearly as bad as they seem. CCP does some dumb stuff. This is true. But today we see one group moving on to bigger and better things,
celebrating life,
and then also whatever the initiative is doing. So
right.
The game is good. The game is good. EVE Online is still worth playing for somehow in 2023. It's incredible.
Mark, can I ask a really stupid question?
Please.
Why did they blow their stuff up? Why didn't they just try to get it out?
Because you can't get it out of a C4.
Can't they filament out of something like?
They can't. They can't. We killed filament.
Oh yeah, we killed that. That's right.
We killed that. I love it. I love. Listen. This is such a gangster move. You know what this is? I'll tell you what this is. I don't know if you guys read much Tolkien, but in the Silmarillion, it talks about how one of the first kings of the elves came across the sea between the land where the gods lived and the lands where people would in Middle Earth. And when they landed on Middle Earth, he burned their fleet, as if to say, we cannot go back, right? And the name escapes me because it's been a long time.
His name was Marco Ramius. That was the name of the king.
There you go. Beautiful. Yeah. Burn the fleet.
What happens to him?
Well, it doesn't go great for him, and it doesn't go great very quickly.
Fucking nerds.
But maybe you learn from history. Who knows? So,
science, please save me from this nerdery.
It went better for Cortez. I'll put it that way.
That is true.
Did you happen to get the J number of his new wormhole?
Yeah, we should find out what that is.
I'm thinking
about expanding into C5 so I can go and get some gas, because CCP is forcing me to go get fucking gas from Wormhole.
He's got a fart gas. He's got a sniff fart gas now.
You learned about that now, huh? Welcome to independence, Giants.
If only you knew somebody with a
I knew it all along. I just never had to do it before. Mark,
that's all I've got.
Giants,
we're more than friends. We're
complaining about industry is a great note to end this on.
We're intimate. Yes. No, I'm excited. The game is still somehow good. I'm so glad to be back. And I noticed that you did not take very long to change your icon there, Brisc, to the old fat bee. It looks good on you.
There you go. That's it. It's end of an era. It feels weird, but I'm sure I'm going to get used to it. So I'm going to be going and saying bye to the Init bros and bye to my SDK bros tonight, and then we'll get everything set up. And then I'm going to go see Spider-Man tonight too. So I got to get off the show. So anyway,
out?
Yeah, that was out like Friday night.
What?
So you gotta go. You gotta come see it.
All right.
Anyway, all right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Meta Show for June the 3rd, 2023. We were joined alongside Kazanir of Goonswarm and Dark Shines of the Initiative. The big news: Imperium losing the initiative. They are going their own way. We have lots of Wormhole news, big fights, and all kinds of stuff. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Next week, we'll see what we have next week. I don't even know. Maybe things will happen. Maybe things won't happen. But we will have a show next week.
Yes.
There will be a show next week. And I look forward to seeing all of you here back for another episode of the Meta Show. Thank you all for joining, and you stay classy, New Eden.